And now we'll see SA 520, that's with regards to analytical procedures. Objectives of the auditor under this 520 were to obtain relevant and reliable audit evidence while using substantive analytical procedures. That is, using substantive analytical procedures. For that, what he has to obtain? He has to obtain relevant and reliable audit evidence and design and perform analytical procedures that assist the auditor when forming an overall conclusion as to whether financial statements are consistent with auditor's understanding of the entity. You see, this is something in relation to understanding of the entity and the relevant and reliableness of the audit evidence. With regards to it is something that's different from sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, right? It because it has more financial and non-financial information and all that things. Only for the analytical processes, we want relevant and reliable information. Reliable is something, it's again talking about the source of the information. Relevant is with regards to the relationship. It has to be more logical connection with the assertion that we are doing. So that's with regards to that. That's how to analyze the objective of the auditor. And so it would be very easy to write any kind of vague or random questions that were being asked by the analytical procedures and in the examination. And analytical procedures means evaluation of financial information through analysis of plausible relationships, that is forming a ratios and all among both financial and non-financial data that we have been talking a lot since then. Substantive analytical procedures applicable to a large volume of transactions. Substantive means a large that tend to be predictable over time, just like rent, salaries, sales, etc. Unsophisticated predictive model is like a non-information, non-financial information to our financial information ratio. And the result of such analytical procedures may identify a previously unrecognized risk of material misstatement. Why they have included here 315 with for the with regards to only this clause with only with this objective, that is he it would assist the auditor in finding something that were consistent with the auditor's understanding of the entity, that his analytical procedures results and his understanding of the entity were relevant. That's what they're talking about. Say 315 here. That's also again talks about identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatement with understanding the entities and its internal, including its internal controls, right? That's why for that, so to revise, if they were not consistent, he has to revise the assessment of risk of material misstatements and then modify the planned and planned audit procedures to modify the planned audit process. And we'll move on with SA 520 here. What a substantial analytical procedure, what you have to do. First, you have to determine the suitability, that is relevance. The relevance that what we seen in the objective here, the suitability of the particular substantive analytical procedure for the given assertion, whether you're checking the accuracy, completeness, etc. For that, you have to check the relevance, logical connection, and you have to check the reliability of the data. Again, it's in the objective. You have to check the reliability of the data and relevance of the information available and controls over the preparation, and develop an expectation results, whether is sufficiently whether that amount evaluate whether the exception is sufficiently precise to identify a misstatement. That's also again they're talking about the objective. What the result should be equal to the auditor's understanding of the entity. In the second objective, right, they're also talking about the same thing with regards to the understanding of the entity, means the identifying of the material misstatement, the risk of misstatements in the entity as a 315 that has to be equal to that, and determine the difference recorded and expected values that is acceptable. That is, if there were any differences here, you have to determine that difference also. That is difference from the substantive analytical procedures to all the identifying of risk of material misstatement and understanding of entities environment in SA 315. SA 315 one side and analytical procedures, substantive analytical procedures one side. Any difference between them you have to identify and determine. That's all with regards to this. And reliability of data is influenced by what? This is another generic question. It depends upon the, you could write the generalization that we have discussed earlier, depends upon the source and depends upon the nature, that's whether it's a oral or written, etc. And comparability of the information, that is, it has to be a more corroborative audit evidence, and the controls over the preparation of financial information. That's all. We have completed the essay 520 analytical procedures. First thing is that it all lies with the objectives of the auditor only here. Most of the essays were with that, like that only, that it has to be relevant and reliable audit evidence, and it has to be inconsistent with what all the things we have done in essay 315, understanding the entity and identifying and assessing the risk of material mistake. And that's it. With the, we have completed essay 520.